everyone. It's P and S here, Peggy and Siwei here. And this week we are going to talk to all of you about being. Last week we talked about starting with be who you are, and then figure out the do and the have. So this week we're going to zoom into the being.
Before we deep dive in, I'd like to share with you my recent encounter in a social activity. So what happened was I get to meet many people, and however, I don't quite enjoy it because I feel it is like interview sessions rather than having friendly chats. So in a way, I feel that if I could have the conversation that will dive deeper, it will be better for me to know these people better. I guess it also boils down to my exposure to coaching as well as my experience through coaching, and that results in a different expectation of me in conversations.
Well, interesting how you bring up the exposure and experience and expectation to conversations. That reminds me, when we were all a baby, we had very limited exposure, very little experience. Exposure is really about somebody else's story, and experience is what we go through in life, our actions. We have very limited of that while we were a baby. However, we feel the world is evolving around us. The world is serving us. The sky has no limit. We just cry and we get what we want. We just do what we really want to do at that moment. So when you say exposure experience, it's somehow the resources. When we were a baby, to me, it's unlimited. We can draw on it endlessly.
It is quite an irony that as we grow in our experience and exposure, we don't seem to be able to find resources as something that is unlimited within ourselves.
I think we can still find resources, but we tend to rely more on external resources. So these days, people have resources as Google, YouTube, social media, news channel, all of them are their resources.
Yeah, that reminds me of my students. Whenever I ask them for some definition used in our science classes, they'll say, "Teacher, please wait. Let me do a search online to check with Google."
Wow.
But actually, I was just wondering, what if they are able to find their own meaning to these terms? Because these are very simple and you don't necessarily have to do a search online.
Yeah, that's very real. And I have to confess that I sometimes do it too. It's like my friend saying, whenever we got a question, let me ask my friend Google. And I'm thinking, okay, when did Google become one of our closest friends? So
yeah, I mean, personally, I also do that. And if we think of it, for example, to ask your personal friend, your close friend, why don't they just turn to their friend and start to discuss?
Yeah. So resources could be external. It could also be internal. Internal meaning that you have a lot of resources, whether it's deep within yourself, or it could be your friends, your network, people that you interact with, rather than out there, you don't know who is answering. Those are good resources. It's how we can take all this and be ourselves. That can help us in discovering the being a lot. Taking the pause that you mentioned, I like that a lot.
Oh, but I also thought of this because my student also mentioned that, "Teacher, if you want us to discuss, it will take time. So isn't it faster for us to check with Google? So I guess that there is a general belief that it is easier, it is faster, it's more convenience to just get the answers online.
Yeah, you touch on another point, belief. Belief comes
Yes.
from our exposure and experience, and it's the acceptance of what we think things are going to be. It's generally assumptions or generalizations that we make as we accumulate experience and exposure. And that change as we grow, that change as some new facts or new experience come through. That's what beliefs are. However, as we discover more resources, we reach inside, we can go deeper into the us, the being, with values. And what is values?
Can you tell us? Yes, tell us more.
Yeah, again, the values are what is important to us in life. And they hardly change. It's not what we see as true or false, it's what's important. And there are only a few values that is very important to us, whereas there are thousands of beliefs that we have, or thousands of assumptions, if you want to call it. And when in the beginning of the episode you call the expectation, that is a very strong belief that you think something is going to happen. That's expectation. So when we want to reach inside, first we have to add to it the resources piece. Then we can add the joy to it. The joy of being. And I came up with this kind of little thing from be to beer. Be is very working, doing, always buzzing around, because we only think we have exposure and experience. When we add the resources, we look inside, happiness comes in. The resources comes in and bring us joy. And
I like the idea of taking the beer and then sit back and relax.
Yeah, can a bee get drunk? Yeah, so and that opens up, allow us to reach more into our values. The values. Yeah. So in terms of interviews, what other advice can you share to bring in that values part to our audience?
Through my experience of interviewing student leaders, I find that it will be good if they are able to open up a more in-depth conversation by letting us know about their opinion, their values, their beliefs. And when that happens, it feels like we know that person, that candidate's even better. And it will certainly help us identify the potential candidates, be it for jobs, be it for, in my case, for the student leader position. So of course, I guess if, for example, if you were to go for a job interview and waiting for some reply from the recruiter, I think instead of just, sitting back and wait for answers or trying to send email to ask for an outcome, isn't it better if you are able to send an email and ask if they are having any questions, and I can help to clarify them?
Yeah, that's a very good example. In fact, it can bring out if someone values caring relationship, and especially nowadays, young adults resonate very much with an organization's values and cultures. So if you want to be part of that, you can also help the recruiter to know that you resonate with a certain value. You care how they can do the job better by offering help to help them to review the applicants.
Mm.
That is a big step forward to demonstrate your values to the recruiter, and you get a closer alignment.
True. And that's also one way to stand out among the crowd.
Absolutely, standing out is key here, right? You want to not be just anybody who is interested to find out the interview results. So like how we open, I like to emphasize that we have been too limited by our beliefs. But when you discover your values, when you reach out for resources, you have a lot of things. You have more than what you think you have. And that can help you to shift to a being state, to help people to shift to the being. And I like to close it out with one of Andrew Matthews' cartoon. It's about the rest of your life. You want it to be memorable, or you just want it to be average. If you want it to be memorable, shift to the being now.
Yeah, by making a choice. Making a choice towards the memorable instead of average. So if you are going to just allow yourself to make accidental choice, then chances are you will probably be going down the path of being average. But if you make conscious choice from now, very moments at this point, you probably will be heading down the path of having a memorable life.
Yep. Just be true to yourself. That's good. Well, what's coming up next then? So
we are going to dive deeper into this value, this part on value, and also explore a bit on beliefs.
Oh, okay.
To find out more, just join us.
Yep, okay. Can't wait. All right. In the meantime, share, like, subscribe with your friends, and we'll see you in our next episode.
All right, see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.